Okay, it's 6 p.m., so we'll call the June 19th meeting of the POA to order. Would you please check the roll?
Ex officio Marthouse. Director Tozan.
Here.
Director Ramirez. Director Nutting.
Here.
Director LaFontaine.
Here.
Director James. Director Blackwood.
Here.
Secretary Sislo present. Treasurer Becker.
Here.
Vice President Gillen.
Here.
President Knobloch.
Here. Everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, next, we have the approval of the minutes from May 15th. Ms. Sislo?
As you can see by the agenda, the minutes of May 15th were approved by email vote on May 25th, 2013.
Thank you. Does anyone need to amend the meeting agenda? Hearing no one, need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Ms. Sislo moves. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Wow.
That was on concert.
Who'd you pick?
Tozan.
Okay. Mr. Tozan, second. Anyone have any comments about that? Okay, so we'll call for a vote. Just raise your right hand if you approve it. Okay, it was unanimous. Thank you. Okay, next is the President's report. In case you haven't heard the results of last Saturday night's amendment, last Saturday's the amendment proposed changes. First off, somebody's already put on Facebook that we did it incorrectly and we needed 85% of the people to vote for it. They are 100% wrong. All we needed was a majority of the people who voted to do this. This is not a covenant issue. So the first one was to allow only members in good standing to vote at all POA elections. That passed 942 votes for it, 49 against. The second proposal was to drop the requirement to have a Friday night meeting in March and in October. That passed with 950 votes for it and 41 against. So that means that all meetings will now be held on the third Monday of the month, weather permitting. And they're all open to the public. And I made arrangements. We finished the arrangements today. We've already changed the dates in March and October coming up. The third one was to allow absentee voting in all POA elections. This passed with 959 votes for and 32 against. And the fourth one was to transfer 3 drainage parcels to the city of Diamond Head. It was the duck pond, the detention pond on Calipacona Way, and the drainage lot on Mahalahui Drive that drains most of Glen Eagle. That passed with 972 votes for it and 19 against. So thanks to everyone who helped us out with those proposals. There has been some confusion lately about the results of a recent court decision. As you know, there are some uncertainties concerning the expiration of the 30-plus sets of covenants in Diamond Head. The POA has long supported pursuing definitive action by the Mississippi Supreme Court in order to provide a clear and concise solution to this situation. Recent rulings in various courts have further confused the issue as their opinions seem to contradict each other. All parties in this dispute agree that the final ruling must come from the Mississippi Supreme Court and that it should occur as soon as feasible. Mississippi has very few laws dealing with HOAs and POAs, and the number of these entities in Mississippi is increasing dramatically on a steady basis. Attorneys on both sides of the issue appear to agree that the case which reaches the Mississippi Supreme Court must be, and I'll say again, must be procedurally and materially sound in order to prevent the court from remanding this complex issue back to a lower court. Because if remanding occurs, then you need additional time and resources will be needed to get the issue back up to the Mississippi Supreme Court. So in short, we have 2 opinions from 2 different courts that give us 2 different rulings. This provides a perfect basis to get to the Supreme Court to resolve this issue once and for all. Once the most recent matter is in a position to be appealed, we, mean the POA, we will be appealing it and hope for a final ruling in short order, but that's obviously dependent on the Supreme Court's calendar. So we will keep you posted of that. Just one final reminder on a different topic. Remember, no political signs are allowed on POA property, okay? And just for your information, on the city, they say no political signs on the right-of-way. The right-of-way is generally thought of as within 10 feet of a road. So if you have political signs, don't put them on a POA property, and don't put them right next to the road, move them back some. One final thing on that, as some of you who've been involved know, there's a couple of spots on Golf Club Drive next to the bathrooms, next to the halfway house, that the POA does not own. There's a small portion that's owned by the Elliott Company, and there's a small portion that's owned by Structures of Diamond Head. So you may see political signs on one or both of those that's not on POA property right there. Thank you. Okay, next we have committee reports. Start, Mr. LaFontaine.
Nothing on the safety committee, but I do have a report on the golf and grounds. Golf and grounds met on June 8th, 2023, and we introduced Jonathan Stockstill as a new member of the committee. He is replacing Quentin Spencer, who has moved. Green Superintendent Dan Hammonds did his report and reported that we have finished the aerification on the ponds for this year, and the Cardinal is scheduled for next. And he's also they're starting to get ready to work on the drainage on both number 3 and number 12 of the Cardinals. Director of Golf Chris Ortiz reported that the member guests in the Hawaiian Open were both good fields, and both had long waiting lists waiting to play, and both events went very well. Event business is even good with the aerification of the greens going on. We still have a lot of large groups booking tee times and large members coming. A large number of groups are coming to play. The Gulf States PGA Juniors are scheduled for June 28th and 29th. They have 20 teams, and they've already people are already signing up for the Magnolia, which is underway. Directive instructions. Hoppy reported that the Golf Academy is now live on the Diamond Head website, and he did a demonstration to show the access for scheduling, and you can schedule your practice time or lessons with any of the coaches that are listed on that website, and that actually begins in July 1st. It will come active. Equipment sales for the Academy are ahead of budget this year, which is doing very well there, and the Project Hope program was maxed out again for the second session. And we do also have plans to rework the Cardinal Pine and Cardinal and the Pine water wells, and Dan is putting together some proposals and a structure of the work required to replace both of those.
That's it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Blackwood?
Yes, the admin committee did meet. We discussed some updates to the employee handbook, and also some banking facilities with the idea of trying to generate some interest income in our deposits. That's all I have.
Dr. Nutting?
I defer to the committee chairmans.
Mr. Chozan?
And
Yes.
chairwomen's.
The House Committee met. We discussed items that we previously authorized from the board to be purchased for the restaurant. The heated cart, it's been audited and should be in soon. The plateware has not been audited, but will be audited in the near future. We addressed the changes that have been made as a result of the discussions we had in our last meeting on opportunities for improvement in the restaurant. Food is now delivered directly from the kitchen, directly to the table. No longer does it go to a staging area. The plate covers are now used to help to retain heat a little bit longer. And there was some realignment in the kitchen staff to ensure more emphasis on quality and timeliness of orders. The implementation of the inventory program is ongoing. That'll probably be still another couple of months out before it's complete. The financials for the year continue to show improvement. We've gone 5 consecutive months now with a profit. The recommendation for the kitchen floor is still being discussed with no real proposal at this time. And the roundtable discussion centered on a need, on opportunity to improve in the restaurant with the need to address customers as they come into the restaurant in a more timely fashion. And that'll be addressed in the coming weeks. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Sislo?
The Recreation Committee met at the first of this month. We're working right now on trying to get together the costs for increasing parking at East Rec. We're finding with some of the ball fields there, we really need better parking facilities. So far, the tablets are working well at the pool, continue to be very successful. The pavilion use around the pools is up, and we're seeking some ways to see if we can eventually move those pavilions within the fencing, allowing people then to gather to the side of the pool but get to the pool without worrying about children running in the wrong places. That's going to be some work we have to do. We're also starting a cooler with liquid refreshments at East Rec coming in this next week or so. That's all.
Okay, the Futures Committee did not meet this month. We do have various ideas and possible proposals, but since we don't know exactly what's going to happen with these lawsuit things, we don't want to go public with ideas and then you just start talking about all kinds of extra things. So, Mr. Gillen?
Yeah, the Airport and Marina Committee met on the 14th. Diane reported to us that the stanchion for Pier 2 is in, and through various negotiations, we're hoping, and they've been promised, that it will be installed this week finally. Do you know anything about if it did, Greg? Just what we got, okay. So hopefully that will happen. It needs to be. If any of y'all have been out to the airport, there is a new fuel sign on our airport, Titan Fuels. They are the supplier for the FBO. That new sign was determined can be lit. And after talking with Adam, for a couple of $100, we can have a nice lit sign out there at night when people come in. We may even be able to get it a little bit cheaper because the new point of sale and fuel pump will be installed this week, and hopefully we can do all the work at one time. So hopefully that'll save us a little bit. Our the David and Mary Maples, who own the company that is running the FBO now and leasing the hangar, has informed us that they are looking to sell their business, and they asked if they could assign the lease. If we have determined that the lease is assignable, but it has to be approved by the POA. The people that they are in negotiations with already run an FBO. They already have maintenance there, and they've promised to bring a mechanic to Diamond Head if this deal comes to fruition. Something that the Maples have not been able to do is get a mechanic on a full-time basis. So we'll keep you informed as those negotiations go on. Nothing's going to happen immediately. There was a discussion held about residents who live on our taxiways that are not in good standing, and we have several. After looking at several different things that we could do, it was decided that we would send a letter to those people asking them to cooperate and please bring their accounts up to date. We will explain that the only thing that happens at the airport is money comes out of the POA dues to pay for. If we have to do repairs, if we have to do maintenance on the taxiways, the runways, the trimming that was done last year along the taxiways for all of the aircraft to make sure that they didn't have any wing damage, the new lights that were installed, that labor, that's all comes out of POA dues, and we're asking for their cooperation. That'll be the first letter that'll be sent. Diane told us that we have a fuel for gas and we have one for diesel tanks out there. she's not selling any diesel. Diesel is just sitting there, and she's had to add an additive to it to make sure that it stays fresh, so that we're spending money and we're not selling any. The committee decided that with her recommendation, there is 93 octane gasoline that is being used on all of the new engines and a lot of the other toys that everybody has out there, and that we can take the diesel out of that tank. Dan can use it. We'll sell it to him for our diesel equipment on the golf course. And then we'll have the tank professionally cleaned, add 93 octane gas to it, and hopefully increase our fuel sales there. We'll have 87 and 93 octane on that. She also reported that she wasn't getting any help keeping the camp, bathrooms clean or getting any supplies donated by the camp house, which they had promised to do. I understand a meeting was held, and that cooperation will be forthcoming on that. We have a problem right now that I hope that people will understand, that you don't feed alligators. We have some people whose children are being allowed to feed marshmallows to alligators. If you go on a swamp tour, that's different. You know, you don't feed alligators in the Diamond Head canals marshmallows. You are setting those alligators up to have to be euthanized. They are going to become unafraid of us, and next time they see a human, they're going to go for them, and they're going to become a nuisance, and they will have to be removed. So please don't allow your children to feed the alligators. Last thing was, Greg had reported to us that we're having some problem collecting the unpaid portion of the monies that DMR owes to us for, that they have promised and they had said they were going to do, to reimburse us for the new piers. Those negotiations are ongoing.
Anything else? Mr. Becker?
I defer.
I've got to add one thing. You may have seen or heard that there's an alligator in the pond on number 4. Well, it started out, it was this big. Now it's about that big. In reality, it's about this big. Okay? It's maybe 18 inches, including its tail. Okay? Yeah, I wouldn't step in there to get that, though, because you're going to sink. Okay? Okay, do we have any POA members' comments on agenda items?
We do not have any.
Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry. Lloyd, you're here. My mistake.
It's okay. Facilities Committee didn't meet this month, so we have no report.
Okay. Now we go to the regular agenda then. We have, excuse me, I'm on a roll. General Manager's report. Sorry about that. Thinking about alligators and
Good evening, everyone. The information packets are presented to you this evening. Included are the financial report for the month of May and for year to date. The reports are more enjoyable to read because of the positive variances. The net income for the month of May shows $111,812, and for year to date, $437,911. That's a combination of increased revenues and several department managers doing a nice job controlling labor and payroll expenses. In addition to the financial reports is a summary of POA members who have paid dues. And I'm told through our controller, Darian McInnes, that approximately 68 to 70% of our property owners are paying dues, either by paying annually or on a monthly basis. There was an uptick in the individuals who were paying monthly as we approach the swim pool season, and as the pools opened, more people were coming in. We had an influx of dues being paid, which was favorable. And the next page, AZ, I think is what I labeled it, indicates an accounts receivable summary with a breakdown of values of the amounts outstanding. The packet goes on to include a collections report, which for the month of May indicates a total of May through June, $39,567. Year-to-date, a collection amount of $252,843. And real estate sales, these are parcels of land owned by the POA that individuals are purchasing. Real estate sales, a little over $53,000. That's favorable report. And the next section outlines the various goals and areas of focus as it relates to capital expenditure works or other items. Under legal, it references Elliott Holmes agreement and easements. As most of you have visited the parcel of land off of Golf Club Drive with the flagging, those are proposed easements which we made known to Elliott Holmes as not acceptable to the POA. And they're looking at alternatives, one of which includes perhaps simply sprinkling their homes and foregoing the need for a secondary access at this point in time. That's to be determined. It's just one of several things that they're considering. In Jerry's earlier report on the marina, he referenced the DMR situation. And there's a summary of events that's under tab F, which indicates that in year 2019, Tidelands grant funds in the amount of $214,305 was approved and made available for the purpose of canal dredging, and these funds were made available to the POA. The dredging did not occur. In November of 2020, a letter was written with a request for the funds, $214,305, to be reallocated from dredging to be put in the form of paying for the boat slips and floating docks that the POA was intended to install. The Mississippi Tidelands Trust Fund Program request for funding in year 2023. Funds were approved in the amount of $225,000. An amended application was submitted with project funds totaling $329,305, signed by Director Spraggins. We have evidence of that. And in March of 2022, a meeting took place with POA board members and the executives of the DMR, Ms. Slater and Director Spraggins, at which time we spoke not only about the funds that were earmarked for the project at the marina, but the possibility of adding some funds to it at the next time that one of the funds became available. And my memory, which I think concurs with others who I've spoken with on the board who attended the meeting, was that we were going to be approved for the initial funding, and they were going to pursue on our behalf additional funding when the next session came up. To date, we have progressed in its entirety and have paid for all of the demolition and removal of debris and the installation of floating docks. And the total amount of money that the POA has spent exceeds the amount reimbursement to date. Amount paid is $467. The amount reimbursed to date, $108, which is far short of even the $225 that was originally earmarked to be reallocated. So, with that said, we are working with our engineer, Jason Chanich, to coordinate a date and time to meet with the representatives from DMR and understand from them what's the next sequence of events to achieve the reimbursement of funds. Whether or not the amount will be $225, $214, $305, or $475 is to be determined. But it weighs heavily on everyone's mind and in our availability of funds for capital items. So a little more pleasant news. The food and beverage report shows continued support by the property owners and patrons of the club, and we thank all of you for your support. And the activity at the club continued through May, and June is off to a pretty good start. May happens to be the second highest revenue generating month through May, year to date. A lot of paper in this report. A report from the marina, sales and marketing. Nancy Perkins continues to book some outside groups from outside of our immediate region. There was a breakfast held by the Hancock Chamber of Commerce, which went extremely well, as the number of attendees grew almost 25–30%, and the staff responded favorably. In your packets, there's a scorecard, a golf course scorecard, and also photographs. This is done by a group by the name of Course Scout, and they do a flyover, and the image on the scorecard allows you to scan it using your phone, app on your phone, and it'll present the golf course visual as a flyover. So it's pretty neat. They also provide the scorecards at no cost to Diamond Head, which is always nice. The last couple pages references payroll overtime hours by department. Overtime hours are being scrutinized closely and used only out of necessity. Necessity in golf course maintenance would be when we are airifying or preparing for tournaments, and in food and beverage when functions occur in association with the activity at the club. So that's about all I have for this evening.
Anyone have any questions?
Have we heard anything back from MDR or anybody about sitting down with us?
No, sir, not yet. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to the regular agenda. We have one motion tonight to vote on, 2023. It's a motion to approve the purchase of a 60-inch replacement grounds mower for not to exceed $14,000. So someone like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. LaFontaine makes the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Who was that? Oh, Dr. Stewart, Dr. Nutting seconds it.
Way down here.
Ground level.
Mr. LaFontaine?
This purchase is to replace the Diamond Head ground mower that's 8 years old, and the old mower is just unreliable, especially during the cutting season like we are now. So we had 3 quotes to purchase a replacement mower, and the recommendation by the ground superintendent was to accept the one that we have here for $12,500.
Dr. Nutting, you have anything?
Yeah, just to concur with Director LaFontaine. Dan came to the meeting, and most of us know that he not only mows and looks after the golf course in a very admirable fashion, but he looks after a lot of the grounds. And this is a grounds mower, and it does yeoman's work. It gets beat up real bad, and was it 8 years or whatever it is, and it is just wore out, and we certainly need a new one to keep those grounds in good condition like we expect.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Hearing no other comments or questions, now we'll have a vote on it. So all in favor of this motion to approve the purchase of a 60-inch replacement grounds mower for not to exceed $14,000, please raise your right hand.
So I can't vote on this? I have to recluse myself from this?
He is now working on the golf course. So yes, you're probably better off not just recusing yourself.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, so the motion passes. Okay? Do we have any comments on non-agenda items? Okay,
We did
then the next thing, our next open board meeting is on Monday, July 17th, right, at 6 p.m. in the Diamond Head City Council. So we need a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Blackwood. And we have a second? Mr. Tozan.